Greetings, music fans, to another Track versus Track where we rank an album, sometimes a very popular album, sometimes an obscure album, and sometimes we bring friends along. This time we brought back, I would say from popular demand, but it was just from our demand, AJ Hodgeman to the show.
Hello, guys.
Before we get started, I love having AJ on the show because he's a musician and Matt's a musician and I'm not a musician. And so they can talk music and there's less pressure on me to try and sound smart. So thank you, AJ.
No problem. Glad I can ease the pressure.
And I don't own a copy of the album we're covering. AJ, I assume, doesn't.
I do not, no.
Like me. Matt has enough for all of us. Apparently,
yes.
Matt likes this album.
I would say this appears to be one of Matt's more popular choices for an album.
Well, before I forget, because I can't really, I'm not going to go back here again. This is my pride and joy.
Yes.
This is an autographed copy of Odessey and Oracle signed by Colin Blunstone, Rod Argent, Chris White. This is a gift my wife got me 10 years ago.
Very cool.
Pride
And,
and joy.
If we didn't already say it, we are reviewing the Zombies album.
Yeah, I
Odessey
did do a
and
very
Oracle.
good job. Yes. Where's the
That looks-
and?
that
There
looks
is an
great.
and somewhere. Yeah, okay, it's written. I just see Odessey Oracle.
That's great album art too. That's I like the design.
There's a story about that.
And this is from '68, right?
Right. Can I tell you a little brief background about this album?
Yeah,
Please
please
do.
do. I didn't do any research.
And it is very brief. The Zombies were a 2-album and done group. Their first album was really more of like a collection of singles, very much like the first Beatles album. You know, the UK had, you know, Love Me Do, Please Please Me was also single. That was a popular thing back in the day. It was to encourage you to buy the whole album. They would slap a couple singles on there. Sometimes they'd even call the album like the name of the single. So their very first album was called She's Not There, Tell Her No. I've got it on vinyl too, but those were, you know, 2 big hits from '64. Then they just didn't do anything. And then in '68, they had already broken up, but they had like 1 record left on the deal. And so they said, you know, they went to the studio saying, let's make a masterpiece. Basically ignored for 2 years. But this album artwork, actually, they commissioned this from a friend of the band. And they told them it was going to be called Odessey and Oracle. And then, of course, the friend came back with it. And they're like, that's amazing, but you spelled Odyssey wrong.
I noticed that.
And it was too late because they'd already sent it to the printing press. So that's that E and after the double S is incorrect spelling. But Al Cooper, if you're familiar at all with the band Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you've all heard of that group, right?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
He was actually only on the first Blood, Sweat, and Tears album. He was the A&R guy so after Blood, Sweat, and Tears kicked him out for David Clayton Thomas, he became an A&R guy for Columbia Records. And he used to go to England a lot and check out like the cutout bins, basically stuff that hadn't made it to America and wasn't selling well in England. And he found this and he's like, oh, I remember the Zombies. Like, whatever happened to them? I remember She's Not There. I remember Tell Her No. He brought it back. He fell in love with it.
So he's the one that brought him back. Okay.
He pitched it to the A&R guys. Yeah. And that's why Time of the Season was released as a single, like 1970, late 1969, like a year and a half after the album had come out.
Oh,
And
I
then
didn't know that.
the single did big business, but the album just kind of remained obscure until like this whole like recent, I would say probably the last 20, 25 years of like discovering these lost classics, you know, different books that have been done by Rolling Stone. And
Oh, sure.
so Al Cooper was the guy who kind of saved this album from obscurity. And one more thing about Al Cooper, even though he has nothing to do with this band besides like saving it, he plays the famous organ part on Like a Rolling Stone by Bob Dylan. So
That sounds like Mr. Cooper, Al. It's got his hands in a lot of jars.
I saw you had a
did.
whole stack of CDs there. I thought you were going to make a hanging with Mr. Cooper joke, AJ, and I was going to slap you across the screen. Because I didn't, that's too much of a reach. You had
I
a
wasn't
whole
gonna
stack
do
of CDs, and you said they only had 2 albums. What's the whole stack, Matt?
Well, these a lot of these CDs, some of them are like live ones and some of them are compilations. I actually brought them out to show you the album artwork on them though, because they're all very reminiscent of I know there's a bad glare there, but they all have that very cool, the kitchen,
like
everything in
it.
the kitchen sink, psychedelic colors.
Mhm.
But they've released some albums just called Colin and Rod, like as they go, the Zombies, Colin and Rod. This was an alternative cover for this, and I've got them on vinyl too in this box set. Lots of odds and sods. This is like B-sides. This is like demos from the early days. But yeah, these are all on beautiful colored vinyl too. So I'll have to show what the Odessey and Oracle vinyl looks like when we clear all this mess. See, I always grab all this stuff and then I have no room to.
You're drowning in zombies.
Oh yeah, that's pretty yellow. Matches some of the color on the artwork.
Yeah, I really like the vibe from the artwork, and it really does represent, I think, like, the band, like their sound. It's a good representation of it. If you were gonna, just look at it, you could be able to be like, oh yeah, I expected them to sound like this looking at their artwork.
You hadn't heard this album before?
No, I hadn't heard this album. I'd heard one song, and Time of the Season, as Matt mentioned, and I've known that song forever. So I didn't know that. I'd never heard any of these songs until today. I listened to it about, I'd say 5 times, and I really enjoyed it. It was a treat. I mean, I love the Zombies. Their whole vibe is great. I don't want to say they're like very Beatles-esque, but they do have that quality. They're from the UK. They're very, a lot of harmonies and stuff, but they're more vocally, like they have like awesome a cappella kind of breakdowns and stuff like that. So that I think separates them a lot from, the Beatles.
Well, as soon as the first track started, and that's called Care of Cell 44, I instantly understood why Matt is a big fan of this record.
Me too.
Knowing that Matt likes the British Invasion, the Beatles, and the Beach Boys, especially, because there's a lot of harmonies, harmonization, vocal, whatever. And this is probably the happiest song I've ever heard about prison. I don't know about the rest of you. I really, and here, I hadn't heard this album. I've actually, I've known of the Zombies, but I only knew the one song. We'll get to that. But I've never had any desire to listen to more Zombies. And when I started listening to the record and realized we got 12 different, more or less different scenarios, different stories, per each song is like from a different perspective. It's not just a bunch of love songs. I was like, okay, this is my kind of jam as well. Mm-hmm. So that said, Carousel 44 is a great example of that. But just to show that so many of these songs are at the same high bar for me, I loved this song. It's my number 5.
I love this song. Like, it hooks you right from the start. Right from when you hear those harmonies come right in, you're like, okay, we're going. It's a great way to kick off, like a comeback album, if you will. So now that I have that backstory, it makes sense. You come in with a nice upbeat song, but Jacob, I didn't even catch that it was, Care of Cell 44. I thought it was a play on the word carousel.
Oh.
So
you must not have listened very carefully those 5 times, but that's
no. I just hear the music,
Awesome. Well, I'll just start by saying it's in my top 3. And I kind of alluded to that earlier when I said it was love at first note. This particular song, it starts off with that light piano, goes into Colin's beautiful voice. I mean, there are kind of 3 things that I look for in a band or an album. 1, great vocals. Here you've got an amazing lead singer in Colin Blunstone, and vocal harmonies. It's kind of a 2-pronged attack here. All of the other members of the band are very capable, and Rod and Chris both sing 1 song on the album as well, and do a serviceable job. Harmonies throughout. And then number 3, as a keyboardist, I want that to be the featured instrument. Now, there's not a lot of bands that feature the keyboard over the guitar, but thinking of the 60s, for example, you think of the Doors, right? In the 70s, you got all those great prog bands, but those songs are so bloated and you have to be in the right frame of mind. But for me, like, this just checks all the boxes. And this song in particular, you've got Colin exposed just with his beautiful singing. You got that wonderful argent piano. You've got the mellotron, and the mellotron in this album, if you don't know what a mellotron is, ladies and gentlemen, it's basically a sampler of orchestral and wind instruments. And so what you're hearing, they didn't have the budget to hire an orchestra. When you hear those lush string sounds, that's done from a mellotron, a keyboard instrument that Rod Argent plays. The harmonies in this sound like something out of Pet Sounds. There's moments, you know, where you're listening to this and like, that sounds like the Sloop John B breakdown in the middle from Pet Sounds. Oh, or that sounds like the God Only Knows section. Just depends like what song you're talking about. But this song has it all. There's a section towards like 3 minutes into the song. This is one of the longer songs where it just breaks down to light piano, bop, bop, and then boom, it comes back in, like just drops the gauntlet on you. This song is a top 3 for me. It will, and as much as like I've probably listened to this one the most because it's the first track, and I kind of wanted to stick it down a little bit more because I'll listen to this album sometimes and get distracted, you know, and I won't finish it, but I always get this one, and I have to be true to myself. This is a top 3 for me. So
before we move on, I wanted to ask you, AJ didn't even know it was about prison. I want to ask you, Matt, what do you think this guy did? What's he in for?
Now, do you take it from the guy's perspective that he's in prison or that his girlfriend's in prison? Or that
I thought it was either from a lover, and I wasn't sure. Now you got me flipped the whole thing. I always thought it was written from the point of view of a parent or a lover to a son in prison, because they say you can stay in the room you do every Sunday and we can walk, hugs and kisses. But if it is, but if it's from the prisoner, and I guess the title says care of cell. So care of cell 44 means it's to be delivered care of cell 44. So right. That's more evidence to me that it is written from, and I think it's probably, the lyrics, they say we can kiss and make up. So that leans lover, but I still think it's sadder from a mother or a father. But and I think he was probably there for tax evasion. That's just there's a much sadder interpretation I have too, but I don't want to bring us all down. But
yeah, I guess I always assumed the person was incarcerated because of drugs, just based on the very psychedelic nature of this.
Oh, that's probably more realistic.
And how conservative, you know, the United Kingdom was at this point. I mean, they had the pirate radio stations and just the rock and roll movement, the psychedelic movement was really like almost talking against like the government, you know, and obviously that continued on with punk music too. Very conservative country England was. Good morning to you. I hope you're feeling better, baby. I mean, you wouldn't call someone a baby if it was your son or daughter, I don't think. But maybe.
The mother, yeah. It's a maternal expression. We have plenty of tracks, Matt. We should move on. Read on the back. What's track number 2? Remind me.
It's Rose for Emily. Rose for Emily. And
this one is a little further down for me. I like how this one kind of builds. And it's light and it's pleasant. You know, it's a good second track from that, you know, rockin' intro of Cell 44. So this one for me, I got it at number 6.
This is a song, and like AJ, I knew one song. It turns out I knew a couple, and I either knew this song or it just feels like a song I've known forever. And I don't know which it is.
It does feel very familiar. Like the minute you hear it, you're like, oh, and maybe that just speaks to the era because there were so many songs that were, you know, kind of sounded like this melodic harmonies like Beach Boys and Beatles and that kind of stuff. But it does. It sounds very familiar.
And as someone who likes a good story song, to contrast to some we've talked to in the past, Matt, it's basically the same story as Eleanor Rigby, but prettier than Eleanor Rigby. It's just a lovely song. It's a sadder song even than Eleanor Rigby. I'd say it's a better song than Eleanor Rigby. It's in my top 3, and that's all I can say about that. Where is it for you, Matt?
Man, I love this song so much, and it juxtaposes that first song because it's so sparse. You know, the first song has all, the Carousel 44 has all these harmonies and stuff. This has harmonies in the chorus, but it's very sparse, just the piano, you know. Though summer is fading now. But when it hits the chorus, you know, you have the call and response with Rod Argent and Colin. Emily, Emily, can't you see this is actually a favorite song of mine to play you can do this one as just a solo number. I've gigged this song 100 times probably at coffee shops and just open jams. It doesn't crack my top 3. It's actually at number 4 for me, and I would love to push it higher, but I don't want to sound redundant, but This is in my opinion, for a 12-track album, almost a perfect album. If I was going to make a list of perfect albums, I couldn't include this because there's 2 songs that I don't consider great. I consider them good, but there's 2 songs that I don't consider great. But yeah, this is the top tier great. It's just at number 4. It's just right below the top 3 for me. I'd love to put it at number 4, but I love it.
I'll just put a disclaimer for me that, having not heard all but one of these songs before going in, this was still hard for me to arrange because I like this album a lot. Like, it's a good listen from start to finish. It's only 35 minutes long and it's got 12 songs. Like Matt said, that's really hard to cut. I mean, near perfection almost. You don't feel shorted because you got 12 tracks, but you also don't feel like you spent an hour listening to an album. And it's great.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything for our viewers, but AJ, I'm going to let you know, Matt and I have a guest, and one of the songs is longer than the entire album. You can probably guess what the song is from Shared Experiences. Mm-hmm. You can say it. I'm going to bleep it.
No,
can you guess it?
I don't want to guess. I want to wait and be surprised.
Okay, you know it though.
I probably do know it.
You've heard it in many a dark bar. It does.
Okay,
yeah, I'll bleep that out, but it does. Most certainly. What do we have next?
Our next song is Maybe After He's Gone. I can kick this one off. I won't talk much about it. I'll let you guys, expand a little bit more on this one. This, for me, once again, love this song. I play this song. When I first started my YouTube channel, 2010, I had just had elbow surgery, and the OT said, you should start playing a little bit of piano just to kind of get it worked back into shape. And what I posted on YouTube is not how I play it now because it's very simplistic. But it was basically physical therapy for me. And I went down and I tried to record like every one of these zombie songs. Carousel 44 was too difficult. There's too much going on there. The harmonies is what makes that song. But I did Rose Fremily, and I did Maybe After He's Gone. And I just went down the line. So I really like this song. Beautiful song. A little bit more complex with the harmonies than Rose Fremily, but not up to the level of Carousel 44. I really don't have much to say other than I love it. And any other album, this would be a top 3. But for this behemoth of an album, it's actually number 5 for me. But I absolutely love this song.
It's in my top 3. It's so sad. It's also another pretty song. It's got my favorite harmonies of the whole album. And it is a chorus that just says the name of the song over and over and over. But it's heartbreaking, that delusion of the main character. AJ, where's it for you?
So
this is a very AJ song.
I'm the total opposite of you guys on this. I like this song. I don't want you to think, based on these rankings, I said I love this album. I just want to put that out there. So I had to, I just had to order these. This one's way down at the end for me. I got it at 11. But that's only because as a track 3 on this so-called comeback album, it kind of deflates you a little bit because of the subject matter. I understand they want to hit you with a couple nice upbeat ones, and then, okay, now we can get maybe into a ballad. But I was just kind of wanting it to keep going on the vibe that I was getting, and then this song kind of brought me down. So that's why I put it a little bit lower. I still like this song.
Yeah, it is strange. There is a run of slow songs to kick off the album, other than Carousel 44. Rose for Emily is a slow song, Maybe After He's Gone. And our next song, how you like that segue? Beechwood Park. Beechwood Park, I would consider that another kind of, I would call it a ballad, but I'd consider it a slower tempo song.
And you mentioned, you were talking about it before, the featuring of the piano and organ, the keyboards over the guitar is awesome. Like, it's just such a change up. You just don't get that a lot, especially with a band from the 60s. So I like that a lot. And the Mellotron, is that what you called it?
Yep.
So that's why, I think this stands out for me as a really great album start to finish, just because of that. It's not guitar heavy, but it's got good instrumentation. The musicality is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think guitar players, when I've suggested for them to listen to this album, I'm always surprised, because I always think like, oh, they're gonna think this is like lightweight affair stuff, but they come back saying the same thing. So I don't even really hear the guitars very much at all. There's like a couple songs. If I really am hyper focused on it, I can hear guitars throughout every song. but they'll come back and be like, oh, I love the guitar ornamenting the or accompanying the keyboards. I'm like, that's a really cool way to look at it. And by the way, we haven't even talked about the bass yet. The syncopated bass playing, the McCartney-esque bass playing on this album, fantastic. It's so syncopated off the piano, because a lot of times Rod will just be doing some kind of staccato quarter note pattern. He'll do like the overlay of like organs on top, but there'll be like that kind of just driving beat, and the bass is always syncopating off it, which is really
neat. That's what I like. That's why I love this album too, is the bass is moving all over the place on all the songs. It's not really, never gets stagnant.
So ranking, guys.
Yeah, Beechwood Park for me is a song that I love, and it reminds me of like the Doors' Crystal Ship. I mean, this is like one of the most psychedelic songs, but because I have to put it somewhere, it falls. This seems like blasphemy to put it here. I have it at number 7, but damn, I love this song. I mean, there's a band.
I'm similar with Jensen. I like this song too. It gives me Beach Boys vibes. Gives me the like if Beach Boys and Zombies had a baby, I suppose it'd be the Zombies. I don't know, but it's at number 8 for me as well. That's just because I had to put it somewhere. I mean, all of these songs are great. And they're not all long too. Like I said, the length of this album, it's a perfect length.
So I'm already done with my top 3 because this is in it. It has my kryptonite bullet in that it's about nostalgia, and couple that with the music being, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, musicians, minor chords. So it seems like it's going to be very like sad and dark. And actually, this is like when this kicked in at first, I was like, oh, this is what I thought the Zombies were and what I didn't care about. Some faux atmosphere, like this kind of put on atmosphere. But the lyrics are, about, again, nostalgia. And then it gets into the chorus, oh, roads in my mind, take me back in my mind. And I can't. And it gets pretty. It's so pretty. And so contrasting those minor chords with that more upbeat chorus, that more what we associate with nostalgia instead of the sad dark stuff. This was it's in my top 3. That's all I can say.
I should preface that Rose for Emily, maybe after he's gone, Beechwood Park, at some point since I've been familiar with this album, have been in my top 3. I love the bridge into and the breeze will touch your hair, and then there's a fading like harmonies in the background. This song is, you're right. It makes me want to throw it in my top 3 just hearing you say how much you like it.
I debated just randomizing the album.
Yeah, same. I was really close to doing that.
And I'm like, I bet I could make an argument for it as long as these 3 songs aren't my my top 3.
I was really close to doing that same thing, Jacob, was doing a random listen. But I mean, I love it start to finish. It almost plays like a nice, book, like you're reading a book, and by the end, you're just so satisfied.
Brief Candles is next, right?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
This one, I'll just go ahead. I really, really like this song. Yeah, I really like this song. And I think for me, this has that awesome syncopated bass going on in it. Yeah, and it's, when you listen to it, if you focus on listening to the bass in it, and so, of course, I'm a bass player, so it sticks out to me, but it's just so good. It moves. He's doing these, I think there's some pedal bass moments, and then he's walking down scales, and he's doing octave jumps and all that. I mean, he's everywhere, and it's really great. So this is in my top 3.
Me too. It's in my top 3 as well. Absolutely. It's got, the form of this song pretty much has an A and a B theme. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's 3 verses, and each verse is sung by a different member of the band.
I could tell that they were switching.
Yeah. Rod Argent.
I knew it was from a different perspective, but I didn't know it was from a different...
Right.
Yeah.
So Rod Argent sings verse 1, Chris White sings verse 2, Colin sings verse 3, but Colin sings the chorus on all 3 verses. So he always comes in with the brief candles in my mind.
Yeah. I love the lyric. I love the lyric too.
And this is a top 3 for me. Absolutely. I love it. And it builds up too from the verse to the chorus. And there's the tempo change too. Matters always doon, doon, doon. Brief candles in it. And then when the oohs and the ahs from like Care of Self 44 come back on this song, on the refrain.
Harmonies are great too. That's another thing you got to love about the Zombies is you can always count on some awesome oohs and ahs going on underneath the main line. That's my stuff right there. I love that.
Yeah, I get goose flesh on this song when that chorus hits. I love this song. Top 3.
I don't want to be repeating myself. It's number 6 for me. I do like it a lot though. Could make a case for it top 3. I do like any song that has like a conversation or we hear it from different points of view. Reminds me of Interstate Love Song or Don't You Want Me Baby, though there's 2 different singers and Don't You Want Me Baby, that's a completely different thing. But definitely Interstate Love Song, for some reason, it sounds nothing like Interstate Love Song. So if someone's listening to it for that, it's just that the narrative is changing as we hear, we closer listens reveal we're hearing different people talk.
Hung Up on a Dream. Probably the most, I would say, of the ballads anyway, the most psychedelic, and a lot of that's through the production. The delayed vocals and the delayed harmonies. And actually, if you've listened to this on headphones, that's a different experience altogether. I definitely recommend you listen to this album on headphones. There's a few songs that you really get a completely different experience from, and that's from the panning from left to right, the delayed vocals. This is a ballad, another ballad. I mean, I generally wouldn't like an album with this many softies, but there's something about each one of them that makes them unique and different. They all have
a little bit of underlying drive to them, so they're not completely, empty.
Good point. I have to put this a little lower though, just because but this is, I have this right now at number 10, and that I feel terrible to say that because I really do like this song.
I also have it at number 10. It's just only because that's where it fit. It's also not one of my favorites, but I mean, it's not a bad song. It's not, I didn't want to skip any of these songs on the album, and it's hard to find.
Great mellotron on this song too. All those synth strings and stuff like that. Very orchestral. Symphonic.
I have psychedelic written in my notes as well. And also I want to ask, what defines psychedelia? Like, do you ever think about that? What actually, because I would look at the cover art and be like, that's very psychedelic.
It's a broad definition, I would say, but a lot of it comes in production and just sound of the band, like Matt.
And the production
in the production of the songs, when you're in the studio, it could be anywhere from bringing a voice from the left channel over to the right channel, and just experimenting with different sounds after you've recorded, or even while you're recording. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a personal. I don't know what the actual definition would be. I guess
you know it when you see it
or hear it.
Yes.
I mean,
so I have it low. Yeah, I say that art is definitely psychedelic.
The art is a tip-off.
Like if you dropped some acid. But when we talk about these songs being psychedelic, often I know what you mean.
They're not too psychedelic. You're right. It's light, very light psychedelic. And that was just the popular style to do. I mean, obviously the Beatles were doing it, so everybody had to do it, a little bit. This is definitely pop music though, with a couple songs that have heavier psych touches. But I don't really consider this a true psychedelic album other than the artwork.
Yeah. I have it at number 9, mainly because I think the vocal gets lost in the production. It's hard to hear the lyrics, and having enjoyed, evidently by how I ranked the story songs, that's what I was enjoying. So, all right, let's move on to changes, different changes. This is one where I would say the lyrics are kind of psychedelic because he's referring to the seasons and. I knew her when summer was her name, when autumn was her. I don't know the lyrics. I have to look it up, but
I really like this song because of the acapella parts of it. It just it's a total contrast. It drives at the beginning, but then you get I think you get halfway through the song, and then everything just drops, and they just go acapella on out with like a conga or something.
Conga, and then there's that single piano note being played repetitively. Boom, boom.
That's right. Yep.
Yep.
Jacob, where did you say you had this?
Oh, this one, bottom half, 8.
This one's another one of those examples of it's got kind of an upbeat beginning, but then when it drops out, it's still got that underlying. drive, so it doesn't just completely lose the air, you know. This one for me, I've got it as number 6.
Matt?
I'm the low man on this one. This song, for whatever reason, there's been times where I've liked it a little bit more. This is what I would call a very good song. I said there was 2 that kind of prevent this from being a perfect album, and I put this as a strike against the album. I do like the a cappella stuff, and there's that refrain, you know, that starts off the song. It's very Baroque, Renaissance madrigal sounding.
Yeah.
And as well as the lyric subject matter. But for whatever reason, the conga drum in there, when it's just the vocals and conga, and then there's that, you know, repetitive piano thing. I don't know. I don't really like the instrumentation on this song. I love the harmonies. I don't like how short that refrain is, though, and it's recycled too much. And it gets really kind of trippy at the end. It gets a little bit on the boring side for me.
It's a little too long. It goes on a little too long at the end.
Well, and here's the thing. You guys probably streamed this, right? This is the opening track on side 2, and it doesn't pop like Carousel 44 is. I like my side 2 opener to be a banger.
Sure.
And I think a lot of that, so probably the reason why it's at my number 11 is just because of the placement. I want something a little bit catchier, zippier at the beginning of an album, so I knock it for that.
All right, what's the next one?
I Want Her, She Wants Me. This is a Rod Argent lead vocal song.
Now this, Jacob, this gives me the I want you to want me.
Well,
This
sounds like something that like any generic, be it a British invasion band would or could play. It's a love rocker. There's nothing lyrically specific as the way the other songs do. It's very much the Monkees could have sang this song.
Hey,
that's very true.
I want her, she wants me. Like it's Matt likes it when I sing because I'm not very good. But yeah, you can see this being it's very like it reminded me of the Monkees, and that I'm not a Monkees hater, but I think that's a term you can use for this is a song that was probably written. Seems like it could have been written by someone else for this band to perform.
Yeah.
So I have it at 10.
For me, I've got it at number 7. I don't not like this song, but I also don't love this song. I mean, I like the vibe that it gets because it gives me the I want you to want me sort of, you know, call response thing, like clever phrase, or, you know, like, and it's got good lyrics, but yeah, for me, it's just like a 7, you know, it's middle of the road kind of, it's where it fits.
Yeah, it's the middle of the road for me too. I like it because I like having Rod Argent take lead vocals on it. And I love that bridge. She told me to be careful if I love her. But as he's going, as he's ascending in his pitch, you've got the descending. They told me to be careful, like almost dramatically. And so they're going in opposite directions. So I really like that section. And I love how upbeat it is. One of the most upbeat songs on the album.
Yeah,
which should have started the side, actually.
It's got that. This would have been a better side B starter.
Absolutely.
Then what was it then? Changes,
yeah. So I had this at number 6, right? I mean, smack dab in the middle for me.
The next song, I imagine, a couple of us will have fairly high. At least one person, I assume it's in their top 3. This will be Our Year. And this is one, when it played the first time and I was listening to it, and I was listening to it on my phone, I was like, oh great, my Apple Music screwed up because it sounded so much like the Avett Brothers who cover it. Like it's such a very straightforward, I was like, that I didn't realize it was a cover. And then it's like, this is a really lazy cover because like the vocals are very similar actually, if anyone is familiar with the Avett Brothers. And then I looked on my Apple Music and I had a copy of the OK Go doing a cover of this song. So it's a very, and then theirs is very straightforward too. You wouldn't, I mean, you associate OK Go with inventive music videos, but they can have pretty generic covers. This is a very nice song. It's a good love song. I could imagine, I don't want to spoil it because it's one of our picker wheel categories. AJ, I haven't told you about the picker wheel yet. You just wait.
Okay.
I could see someone having this played at their wedding. This could be a first dance. Or was it your?
Yes.
Did you dance to this, Matt?
Yes, it was one of our wedding songs. Yeah.
I figured. I bet. That's why you have that framed record.
Oh, I got that before I got married, actually.
Oh, well then.
That was when we were
mind.
dating, actually. That was a dating Christmas gift.
Well, oh. So top 3, Matt?
Yeah, top 3 for me for sure. And this was the first zombie song. I do She's Not There with our band, but this was the first zombie song I specifically sat down to learn to play for solo shows. You can get by with this song with the piano. There's not as many harmonies in this. Obviously, the recording has like the kind of like a brass sound to it on the refrain, but just the lyrics to it. The warmth of your love's like the warmth of the sun, and this will be our year. And the end, the coda, how it just took a long time to come. Oh man.
And if we haven't encouraged people to listen to this album yet, I don't know what else we have to do to get you guys to listen.
Just have Matt perform the whole thing.
Yeah. It is a great album. I love this song too. This one's right in the top 5 for me. It's number 5. I love the upbeatness and the positive outlook of the song, and how it's going to be their year, and they're gonna do it. And you could take it as you could take it as from a couple's point of view, or you could even take it as a band's point of view too, if you wanted to. Just the positive outlook, and maybe being back in the studio, this is their year or something, but evidently not, because the single didn't come out till 2 years later. So, but it's a number 5 for me. It's a great song. I really love it.
People should listen to it. I've heard it. I think now I'm thinking I think I've even heard it used in a political context, like on election
probably
years,
have. Yeah. And now that you said those 2 covers, I'm sure I've probably heard the OK Go cover of this and not even realized. And
I believe that's how I don't want to presuppose. I want to say it might have been for like one of those political like fundraiser albums of some sort too. But
we're forgetting that awesome key change in the middle too. It's the only song that has a key change.
It's right. There is a key change in the middle.
Yes, it's pretty much the same motive, the same melodic idea, but that key change just drives it to a new level.
Yep. Key change means instant energy.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned the Avits. I might as well put my dad rock cards on the table by mentioning Butcher's Tale from what's the entire title? I don't have the entire title written down.
I think it's from 1912 or 1914.
Western Front, 1914.
Yeah. Gave me a very Decemberists feel, because it's the type of subject matter the Decemberists would sing about. The organ, I'm assuming it's an organ. You can correct me, Matt. Has a very accordion sound to it.
That's a pump organ.
Yeah, and the Decemberists perform with an organ too. They're the band I've seen probably live the most in my life. That said, I should really like the song, but if this was a Decemberist song on an album, it would be my least favorite song on that album. It's my number 11. The vocals, it's only saved from being on the bottom because I find the subject matter interesting. Mm-hmm. Of writing of the perspective of a former butcher turned soldier. And I think that is interesting enough just to save it from the bottom. At one point it was my number 12 because the way the chorus comes and how abrasive he's singing it, it's not a fun listen.
This song was a turnoff for me. I'm with you, Jacob. It's my number 12. It landed at the bottom. Just because I like that they're singing about the subject matter. That's a deeply dark subject matter, and I like that about it. But it just really didn't do much for me in terms of, if I really did have to skip through a song, I would skip through this one.
Matt's nodding in agreement.
For sure, easy number 12 for me. At times, though, I've put this at number 11. I've swapped this and changes around from time to time. So a little information about this song. This is a Chris White lead vocal. He's the weakest of the 3 singers, for sure. I can't stop shaking my hands. Yeah, it works for this song, though, but he doesn't have a really pretty voice. This, believe it or not, Columbia wanted to put this as the lead single.
Oh, wow.
And they did. So it's not like the I'm in love with my car thing with Queen, how they wanted to put that instead of Bohemian Rhapsody. They actually did. They issued this as the single when the album came out.
Bold choice.
Yes, and it didn't do anything. And that pump organ that you described, it's a different sounding organ than everything else, because the other organ that you hear is a Hammond B3 with a Leslie cabinet. This is actually, and they'll perform this song live when they do the entire Odessey and Oracle, which they still do. Colin and Rod are actually going to be at First Avenue this summer. I'm going to try to catch them. But they bring out a pump organ where he plays, instead of an accordion, that you move like this, the squeeze box. You pump it with your feet, and you push the feet, and that puts air through the instrument. So, yeah, it's just not a great. This is one of the songs that prevents us from being a perfect album. But I don't.
I would agree.
I don't hate it.
2 tracks left to go. Number 12. I revealed where it is on my ranking instead of saying the track name. Track 11 is my number 12.
Why don't you just go ahead and take it? Yes.
It's at the bottom of mine. It's Friends of Mine. And I kept flipping it back and forth with Butcher's Tale. It's treacly for me. It's a rehearsal dinner song. It's a song that I assume it's about being happy for other people being in love. And then it's just a bunch of names being sung. And it just got tedious for me at that point of the album. I'm like, Dave and Mary. I can't sing. I'm singing it like the B-52s. That's the one. That's the only way I can do it. Dave and Mary. Phil and Gary. I'm sure there's some girl names in there. I just only remember
Jim and Christy. Bunch of Jims in a row.
For me, this one's higher up on mine just because I like the subject matter, unlike Jacob.
You just like people's names.
I just want names.
You
I
love
thought
names.
It was fun. The lyric is fun because it's just reciting names, like and him being happy. They're happy for his friends, and he's talking about his friends. And so for me, I have it at number 4, just because it's, I don't know. I didn't take it as seriously as Jacob of a song, I guess. Just because I thought it was fun and lighthearted, and he's saying he's happy for his friends.
It's good to be happy. I guess I don't like other people being happy. So
I think that's the takeaway here.
That's why I hate the song. Matt,
I'm gonna split the difference.
Please.
This is number 9 for me, so on the lower end. But I do cover this song. I don't do the name dropping part though. I love the opening section though.
Yeah.
When she takes your hand,
it hooks you at the beginning, and I think that's probably why it's higher up for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome verse. The chorus, though, I guess if you want to call the name dropping part, is kind of lame. They mentioned Jim, and Jim actually went on to be the bass player so immediately after this album was put out, the band broke up, and Rod Argent started the band Argent, which you probably have at least heard their biggest single, Hold Your Head Up High. It's like a 70s radio staple if you've ever listened to it.
Not from your singing, I wouldn't know that.
Oh, okay. Well,
but maybe if I heard the actual song.
This Jim, and actually all these people's names that they're dropping are friends of theirs, and a lot of them actually get credit on the album if you've ever read the back of the album. Friends that helped out with the production of the album. A lot of them were couples at the time, but the Jim guy that they mentioned went on to be the bass player in Argent's band and played, and actually just recently died because when Argent broke up and they reformed this Zombies iteration called, Colin and Rod, whatever, he went to become the bass player for them too. So that's kind of a neat little story about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And now you know the rest of the story. It was very Paul Harvey-ish, this episode.
Yeah.
All right. We're finally to the end. The big song everyone knows.
Yep.
Time of the Season.
Yes.
So I've talked about my parents' musical taste before and how they didn't have great taste. But what they did do anytime we were driving anywhere was listen to KIOA out of Des Moines, the oldie station. And so I've known this song for as long as I have physical or memory.
Same with me.
Corporeal form. And I've never liked this song. And so I've never had any reason to listen to more Zombies. And there are a couple of reasons I don't like the song. And again, it's an Oxygen song. It's just like it's been around forever. I've never liked the taking a sip of Coke. Boom, boom,
I just knew you were gonna have to. I knew that you would take this.
I don't like Pleasured Hands is kind of icky to me too, the lyric. And I never like, what's your name? What's your name? Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
I don't like the way he says, he rich.
Is he rich like me?
I don't like the who's your daddy. The organ solo is good. I get that. I get that. I forgive Matt for liking this song if he does. But yeah, and whenever it's used in movies, like to show it's the 60s because they're playing this song, I do a little eye roll. But I don't know why this song was such a big hit. I don't know compared to everything else on this album. And maybe if it didn't have the things I don't like, maybe I could like it. That sounds very simple, doesn't it? Just make a song without the things I don't like, and I will like your song. It's number 10 for me. It's near the bottom.
What? I think I'm just here to play devil's advocate on Jacob today because this is in my top 3.
Okay. Because you know it.
Well, one, yes, it was the only song I knew from this album, but also because really it's not because of the lyrics. I think those are fun and playful, and it's if you listen to the headphones, there's a lot of panning work going on that really kind of trips you out with some of that stuff. But it's really the reason I like this song so much is the 2.5-minute jam session at the end that really showcases their true talent as musicians and not just being able to harmonize with each other. So, if you erase the first 2.5 minutes of this song, even that last 2.5 minutes is still fantastic without any words. So, why don't you just skip to the middle of the song and go just listen to the end there?
I'll do that from now on. Like I said, I like the organ solo. And maybe it's not even a solo, but the doo-doo.
And I'm also a fan of this song because I have covered it in a band. So it's fun to play because you all have different lines that you're singing. And, I'm partial to the Who's Your Daddy because that was my question to ask.
Oh, Matt, where do you have it ranked?
I've got this at number 8. Yeah, it's the song I knew going into this album. My dad had like this I think it was like Billboard Rhino tape. It was like best of 1970 or 69. Like I said, this single was released a year or so after the album. I'd never really loved it though. I do like the breakdown of the chorus. It's the time with all the harmony of the sea. But yeah, I hate the boom doom doom. The reference to Who's Your Daddy, by the way, this is supposed to be a reference to the song Summertime by Gershwin. Summertime, the living is easy. They talk
it's very reminiscent. It's a very similar feel.
Yeah, so that lyric comes from that libretto or whatever, the Who's Your Daddy thing. It's not trying to be like sexual innuendo or anything like that. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I just assume any of this rock and roll devil's music is about sex or drugs. It's just
the organ jam at the end, though, man, it's insane. It's not it's him layering over himself, though. He's got like I think probably 3 different.
And they're all over your ears.
Yes, panning back and forth. It's really cool. I love the ending, but yeah, I'm kind of burnt out on the song. And Jacob, that's funny how you say whenever there's like a movie sequence that has this in the background, it is kind of obnoxious. But there is one movie where I love hearing this, and that's the movie Awakenings with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. Basically, Robert De Niro's character is like in this comatose state, and Robin Williams' character like develops this thing to wake them out of this like coma state. And when when Robert De Niro's character finally wakes up, like 30 years he's been frozen, and he's like seeing the city and how like everything has changed, this song comes on in the background, and it's quite touching, actually. It really works in that movie.
Let's get to top 3, gentlemen. Let's let our guest go first.
All right, so at my number 3 we had track number 5, Brief Candles. Great song. My number 2 is track number 1, Care of Cell 44. And Jacob already knows what my number 1 is, the song he hates most.
Wow.
Would be Time of the Season at number 1.
But it was my number 10. It wasn't what I hated most, but okay.
I know.
My top 3 are all on side A. Number 3 was Maybe After He's Gone. Number 2 was Beechwood Park. and one was Rose for Emily, because it makes me want to cry. So sad. She doesn't have a rose.
Man, I love how you have those 3 songs in your top 3. That seriously means you like this album, because those are like close to making my top 3, Jacob. But that's
I
awesome.
passed the test.
That's awesome to hear that you put those songs in your top 3. So I don't have any of those songs in my top 3, but I really do love them all. I'm pretty much like with AJ. Ours is very similar, except I don't have Time of the Season on mine. My number 3 is This Will Be Our Year. Surprised that you guys didn't have that one on the top 3.
It was my 4.
Yeah, okay. So right on the fringe there. My number 2, almost my number 1, and it shouldn't be my number 1. It's just become like my dark horse one that I'm not as it's Brief Candles. I almost put that as number 1. I'm like, you know what, man? All the history you have with this album, that was never your number 1. You've always
Brief Candles is a great tune though.
I want to push it in number 1, but I cannot deny Carousel 44. That's the song that made me fall in love with this album, and I don't think it can ever be, taken off the top spot. It's just too much history with that song.
So we have this picker wheel from pickerwheel.com, not a sponsor, and it gives us the prompt to end our conversation on, if you could save one track. It might make sense to be your number 1. Would it be your number 1, or would you pick another one?
I wouldn't pick my number 1. I wouldn't pick that one, because in all actuality, in real-time thinking now, I would have to send my number 2 song, and it would have to be the Carousel 44, just because of the energy. It's a great way to get it. Grab your attention, kicks you right off. You got great harmonies. You got everything you need to know about this band, all in one song.
You nailed it. It's got everything. These guys are constantly compared to the British version of the Beach Boys, but they've got, different instrumentation. This is the whole package right here. Yep. This is the song I always say, you got to listen to this. And everyone I've ever played this song for has loved it. And it's always been like the gateway song to like exploring this album. People that know Time of the Season that are like, I'm not really interested in that band. Play Carousel 44. Ooh, I like that. And then there's just so many other songs that are, of similar quality on this album.
I'll go for that because my number 1, I don't know, Rose for Emily is such a pretty song.
It's awesome.
But if I could save one, I would want it to be the most representative of the album, which Carousel 44, I'll concede to you guys, since you guys seem to be in agreement. But I think maybe, and it's also a story. It's also sad. So yes, I like sad songs. Let's go with it. It's another delusional one. And now I kind of feel like I should rank it higher than 5, but that is not my place. AJ, or it's not in the rules.
Nope.
AJ, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, guys. This was fun. And Matt Jensen,
thank you for
telling us about
exposing us to this album.
I hope you guys continue to listen to it after this, because
I absolutely will.
It's a grower too.
Please like, rate, and subscribe our channel. We'll be back next week with another album. We don't say what it is ahead of time, but you should listen to it before whatever it is, before you watch it, because that makes these episodes a lot easier to enjoy, I'm sure. So
I look forward to doing this again, guys.